The one thing that all foster children have in common is growing up to be Foster alumni. As with so many other kinds of connections, that bond can be a stepping stone to a better life. And that's the goal for the Massachusetts network of foster care alumni. We'd like to welcome the project director, Grace Hilliard-Koshinsky. Thank you very much for being with us, Grace.
Thanks for inviting me.
Take me back to your first encounter with someone else who'd been in foster care.
The first time that I met anyone else who had been in foster care outside of my siblings as an adult, I found myself in a 2.5 to 3 hour conversation in which we just left feeling, I felt this incredible kinship with that person, even though they had had slightly different experiences than me. That bond of being in foster care really felt as if we were very connected.
What's the advantage of having conversations like that and seeing other people and maybe feeling that, I guess I'm not that strange?
Well, I think it's a matter of a lot of things. I mean, being able to see somebody who's 20 or 30 years older than you, who is living their life successfully, raising a family, we all need mirrors of positive possibility. And so having that mirror of somebody who's already gone through some of the things that you may be going through, especially as a transition age alum, or if you're still in foster care, we all need those, a variety of diverse and inclusive mentors and people to look up to.
Well, I imagine these connections must be critical for people just as they're making that transition when they're 18 and a few years older.
I think the first critical step that we've been trying to focus on is really letting people know, well, who is a foster care alum? And that has been continually something that we find that is not as well known, because the movement, if you will, of foster care alumni is very much in its infancy, both locally and nationally. It's really important for folks to know that you're a foster care alum if you have experienced foster homes, group homes, residential treatment, if you were raised in kinship care, for example, if you were raised by your grandparents or your aunt, if you were adopted or guardianed after experiencing time in foster care, or if you continued with DCF following your custody ending at 18 to receive transitional services. You're still an alum.
I imagine some of the younger alums, they need help with, well, let's say, continuing their education, maybe looking for jobs or training programs.
Absolutely. I would say that the transition age population of alumni definitely need our focus, especially for those of us who are older that are interested in joining the organization to give back, to give that hand up to those who are transitioning. And so we've been doing that by holding an employment networking event with National Grid, and we're really looking to engage with other businesses and in various sectors in order to hopefully bridge that divide and create those networking opportunities for our members, especially the transition age alum.
Well, you're looking, of course, for alums to be volunteers. What do they get from that?
So volunteers, a lot of alum who have chosen to volunteer have said that they do so because of their desire to give back, and of their desire also to be connected with other alum, and because we are such a grassroots organization, that they understand that in order for us to get that event going in each of the regions of the state, that we really need folks that are able to roll up their sleeves and help us get that event started. Also, I think when you create something, that you really have an ownership sense of that and a stake in its success, which is really important.
Well, speaking of success, I guess you've had some growth in your numbers of alumni, probably.
We have. I'm very excited to report that over the last year, we've recruited about 40 volunteers who have been working in a variety of capacities in event committees across the state. And that has led us to be able to hold multiple events in and across Massachusetts.
Well, I guess you've got some events coming up fairly soon.
We do. In June, we're holding our first annual Alumni Family Fun Day, in which we're hoping that somewhere around 100, 150 alumni and their families, their partners, their spouses, and their children will be able to come to Oxford, Massachusetts, and there'll be activities like boating, swimming. The 200 Foundation has generously helped us in being able to fund the event, and so it's going to be catered. It's a barbecue, just a really great time for alumni to meet one another and for hopefully just to celebrate with one another.
Now, I know it might not be completely scheduled yet, but I guess there are some things you're working on for groups closer to the city here in Boston.
Yes, so in the northeastern region, it is scheduled. We're having our first foster care alumni cooking social, which will take place in Lexington at the Minuteman Technical High School on June 11th. And then the Boston region is also working on a meet and greet that's up and coming. And there are event committee members that are working on a variety of possible events for that region.
So meet and greet, is this strictly with alums, or are you going to be bringing in some other partners to events like this too?
We have been experimenting with our events in terms of what the dynamic should be like for our initial events. For some of the initial meet and greets, we've really tried to reach out to mostly alum to attend, and we've found that because a lot of us have usually been the minority in a room full of people, just because of the numbers of people who have been in foster care, to have a concentrated group of alumni in one area. It just has opened the door to a lot more conversation in a greater degree of depth. But we do want to have that balance because allies are really essential to our movement.
Well, we should like to mention finally, if people want to get involved because they're an alum or they want to be an ally, what's the best way to do that?
You can engage with us in a variety of ways. We are on Meetup, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website is massnfca.org. And we recently launched a new product called Mass NFCA Connect, in which it's a platform that if you took Yelp plus LinkedIn plus Meetup and created a custom community for former foster youth to interact with one another online, you can write reviews about resources that we've put on there and connect with alum, but it's also private, so your name doesn't come up in a Google search because we recognize that we want to meet them where they're at in terms of identifying formally and publicly as a foster care alum.